Okay, so welcome again to Birmingham Wheelchair Basketball Motivational Inspirational Project during lockdown to support people who have been isolated and obviously support motivation and inspiration. Tonight we've got Luiz Faye, wheelchair adaptive boxer. We spoke to Louise last week, wasn't it? We talked about obviously what you do, and and it's a pleasure again to have you on with us again tonight. Again, we've got Owen Lamprey, lead practitioner at South Birmingham Clifton Primary School, and we've got the man himself, Mr. Spencer Fearon, MTK Global, boxer, promoter, interviewer, Spy Sports, boxing analyst. Spencer, pleasure to meet you. And again, we met in London, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Guys, I'm going to let you say hello to Spencer and have a little chat, and then we'll get started if that's okay. So, Louise, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm WBC Cares UK Sport Ambassador and Adaptive Boxing Coach, also an adaptive boxer based in Barnsley.
Okay, Owen, over to you.
Hi Spencer, I'm Owen Lamprey. I'm a lead practitioner for health and wellbeing at a large primary school in inner city Birmingham. It's in the Sparkbrook and Balsall Heath ward, which has actually produced the Yafai brothers and various other boxers from the Yemeni background as well. And I'm really keen to meet you and see your views on how boxing can play its role in the health and wellbeing of young people. So hopefully hear some fantastic insights.
Okay, over to you, Spencer. Again, nice to see you. I'll let you say hello to everybody and just tell you who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hi Louise. Hi Owen. Yeah, what am I? Spencer Fearon, former professional fighter, former manager, promoter, trainer. What else I do now? I'm the head of MTK Global Foundation, which is their charitable arm. I'm still heavily involved in the sport of boxing because I'm now the ESPN's Plus sports analyst, and for MTK Global they do shows every other month, especially with the lockdown. It's a bit crazy, so yeah, I've been doing that as well, so it's a lot of study, but apart from that I'm very grateful, and even more grateful to speak to you guys.
Thanks, Spencer. I've sent you some questions. Obviously, we've only got a few questions, but obviously we're going to expand on them hopefully. And obviously, Owen's going to talk about education, if that's okay with you. But going to you, Louise, regards to adaptive boxing and being in these challenging times, and the need to stay active. How do you utilise your boxing community to come together online and create the idea of an interactive boxing workout session?
Well, actually, we're very much in our infancy before lockdown happened. So as far as our boxing community went, it was very, very small. So up until lockdown, we had some small one-to-one sessions going on in Barnsley. And then at Scott Welsh's gym down in Brighton, we'd just started the first set of group classes in the February. So when I say small, we were very, very small. There was only sort of like 7 or 8 of us really taking part. So COVID kind of sent us with a unique opportunity to start to build that community. So that small group of 8 people, we kind of sort of got together, we started doing these classes online. Well, actually, thinking about it, so at the club that I box in, we've got adaptive boxers and able-bodied boxers. So when COVID first happened, obviously the gym was shut to everybody. So initially the class was a couple of wheelchair boxers and the standing boxers boxing together. So I would teach the adaptive version, another coach would teach a standing version, and we'd all kind of do it together. And as the post started to get shared and this small community started to talk about what we were doing, we realized there was a demand for it, and that's when the community started to grow and really started to come together. So from starting this, we've sort of done like the online socials, and we do quizzes. We're all taking part in a superhero challenge, the Winter Wonder Wheels, and so it's just been about learning about each other, learning what other people can bring to the table, what tips and tricks we've got, what we like to do, what hobbies and interests, and bringing all of that together. And through COVID, we've ended up with this international community now. We've got a real big following in America, and it's a community in itself. So it's been quite special.
Fantastic. I mean, thinking of like obviously in lockdown, Spencer, and would you say that it's like being online and obviously in the boxing community on your side as well, especially in London? Is that been the kind of the same case as well? We've got everything going online and everybody can be reconnecting that way.
Yeah, I think Zoom has been paramount to a lot of this stuff. It's like there's a lot of Zoom conference calls, Zoom meetings, Zoom interviews. So Zoom itself has been something that's been really up there. And not only that, but not only through social media, it's like Instagram has been a major part. Like the Instagram lives, like the debates that you're having, or people who interact throughout on that through social media has been so important. So I would say that, yeah, or even down to the training. I know loads of people that are doing training classes online, and people are subscribing to that, and they got paid, I think it's like $10 a month. So it has been, but to tell you the honest truth, this lockdown, like now we've got this 1 month lockdown, which could invariably become 3-month lockdown. It hasn't really affected me. I think the major thing first time out was like the homeschooling, or to adjust or even to readjust to homeschooling, which was a little bit difficult because I got 4 children, but I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So to teach them within that time, and they're 2 little girls as well, and like they don't listen to nothing their dad says. So that wasn't the most easiest thing to do. But then eventually we kind of got rhythm and stuff like that. So off of that was challenging to say the least. But the lockdown is what it is. But what I would say to people is like, the lockdown, it seems to be a physical thing and not a mental thing, because if you're constantly mentally active and you're doing things to be mentally active, then it doesn't really affect you that much, I would say. That's from my own personal experience.
Fantastic. I mean, going back to obviously WBC Cares UK. I mean, it was created by the World Boxing Council to, as you say in your quote, big champions supporting little champions. How do you support communities?
So we've actually got quite a number of programs that have been running for a few years down all around the South Coast. I think we're in around about 20 gyms. So we've got the Boxing with Determination program, which is for children and young people with special educational needs. We have blind boxing, and we work with Blind Veterans UK, doing a program with those. And then aside from the adaptive stuff, we've got Little Champs Camp, which is funded classes for the Little Champs. We've got a mentoring program whereby young people who found themselves on the brink of crime or involved in crime, addiction, gangs, etc., work on a one-to-one basis with a boxing trainer. And it's not just about the boxing, it's about lifestyle, it's about opportunity, education, employment. So we've had that mentoring program, and then we have the Youth Crime Initiative, which is in a significant number of gyms down south. So it's not just about amateur boxing or anything like that. It's really about channeling into hard to reach communities and bringing out the best of those communities. And actually, just touching on what Spencer said about everything going online, it's actually made that more accessible now. So those hard to reach communities who might have struggled to take transport to a gym to take part in these lessons or these classes or these initiatives, they don't have to leave their own front door now. So that has become even more accessible. And I think moving forward, we can help even more communities.
Amazing. I mean, Spencer, thinking about boxing, and obviously, you've been heavily involved in it for such a long time with your career and what you do now. Why is boxing such an amazing sport or an activity to support communities and people?
It's an amazing sport because it's an honest sport. I'm talking about the participants in the sport. I'm not talking about the sanctioning bodies or the governors no. But the sport within itself encapsulates the universe, because it's a battle. It's not just a physical battle. It's not just a mental battle, but it's a spiritual battle as well. And sometimes fighters don't realize that just the taking part, you've won, regardless of result. Just the main factor that you have participated in a sport so challenging, so demanding, and you can't cheat because you'll get found out. But the major thing is not to cheat yourself and to give it 100%. And you give it 100%, you won it regardless of the result. So that's why boxing is so important. That is why at this time now, especially like with certain people suffering from mental health issues, or certain people suffering from ailments of the mind, just to be in a gym to express that technical will on a punching bag, to get yourself exhausted, to do all of those kind of things, it's trust me, I can only speak from experience. And when I speak from experience, I also want to talk about how I've witnessed boxing change people's lives, really change people's lives. Even myself, I could say, like, boxing, I've been involved in boxing now for 42 years. Involved in boxing. Next month, I'm 47 years old. So, yeah. I know, Louise, you're meant to say, no, you don't look it. Yeah, right.
I was just about to say, I thought, no way, not 47.
I'm 47 next month.
Yeah.
December 20th.
Really?
Right? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't look 47. You look like 21 again. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you very much. So what I'm saying is the benefits of the sport of boxing for myself, for what it's done for me, or how I've made a livelihood from this sport. I'm indebted to knowing good people from the sport, and knowing also that here we have someone like Louise. You're doing wheelchair boxing, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right, exactly. Now, when you go into a boxing gym, they say to you, like, the most important thing to you is your jab. And when always, every gym you go to, any gym you can go to around the world, they'll start you off with the first thing that you use to, you learn how to stand and you learn how to throw the jab. But what people don't realize is that the most important thing to any combatant of this noble art, and it actually is a noble art, is actually your mind. It's your mind. It's your mental capability to absorb knowledge, and then once you've absorbed it, how you express it. And that is why I love this sport, and it's also why it has a major importance to young people, or just the ethos of the sport. Not necessarily being a participant of the sport, but everything that goes around it, to the discipline, to how you live. And there's a camaraderie inside of boxing that is unbenign in any other sport. I haven't seen it in every sport. And I know loads of footballers. I know a lot of guys who are in basketball and stuff, but the camaraderie that is inside of boxing, like just with the training together and everything else, is something that I've never ever seen before. And it's a global language, because you can go into any country. I've been very fortunate to be able to travel with MTK Global Foundation, and I can go into any country. And when I go into these countries, they may not speak the same language as me, but as soon as we're inside the boxing gymnasium, or as soon as we understand that we're seeing something of beauty when we're seeing someone else demonstrate, it doesn't matter what language they're speaking, because it's a universal law and a universal language. I'm sure Owen, knowing that the things that you've done, especially within your community, or like your five brothers, I know all of them very, very well. They're my really good friends. Anytime I'm in Birmingham, they're the guys that I ring, and they'll take me out to, like, usually they're on a weekend, they'll take me out to go watch fights. So they take me to the hot spots to go and watch fights. So if you see like what those brothers have accomplished and how they've turned their lives around to a height of success, especially Cal he's done amazingly well.
Fantastic. I'm going to hand over to Owen now, because obviously Owen wants to talk about the educational side. So Owen, over to you.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Andy. Just a quick disclaimer. This is growing from Movember, but I don't look too bad for 55 either. So for Spencer, you're looking good for 47. But
Nah, seriously, I'm going to tell you the honest truth now. You know, they say black don't crack. So somewhere in there, you got some black blood in you, because you look young, bro.
No, I'm 42, but that's my disclaimer. My other disclaimer is I'm not an experienced boxer, so the only experience of boxing I've got is 3 rounds of sparring when I was about 25, and I thought I was going to die, and the other guy wasn't even punching back; he was just with the pads. So that's my only that's my disclaimer coming in. But moving on to education, I've got a question for Spencer, and maybe Louise, you can chip in afterwards as well with your perspective. From a traditional non-boxing fan like myself, I've come to boxing in the last sort of 15 years, the last half of my life. My traditional view of boxing within education was that it was the place where sort of naughty boys from school got sent to teach them some discipline, or kids who weren't very fit got sent. What else can boxing bring to young people, and how can it help them in their education, but also in their future careers as well, even if they're not going to be a boxer?
Go on, Louise.
Oh, sorry,
I was going to go to Spencer first, but chip in either way.
Okay, all right. Because I can talk forever, so I just want to hear the young lady.
Yeah, we'll bring Louise in, don't worry. But yeah, Spencer first, from the sort of traditional male boxing scenario there.
Sorry, so repeat the last bit of the question.
Just from the traditional view of boxing is that from an educational point of view is perhaps somewhere where you sent naughty boys to go and learn some discipline, or maybe some kids that were overweight to go and get fit and sort themselves out and defend themselves. What else can boxing bring to their education and also their future life prospects?
Structure, more than anything. Boxing gives structure, right? Because there's an old saying that there's tricks in trade and mechanics in business. The mechanics involved inside of boxing brings structure to anybody's life, let alone the discipline. You know what I mean? What's the quote? An undisciplined life is a life not worth living. So the structure that the sport gives, and also the bravery that it gives, are things that can be implemented in any facet of anybody's life. So that's, to a young person, I would say, and I repeat this many times before, but if you don't step forward, you'll always be in the same place. If you walk into a boxing gymnasium, you're never going to be in the same place. These are things that you can implement and structure into your own lives. You know what I mean? If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. If you don't go after what you want, you'll never ever have it. These are things that I learned through boxing, right? There's a famous quote by a liberationist in America called Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey stated that God and nature first made us who we are, then out of our own creative genius, we make ourselves who we want to be. Follow that great law, put God and the skies as our limit and eternity our measurement. So when we're looking at eternity, we're looking forever. So our eternity has to be that of perpetuity. Perpetuity is by the things that we learn. How do we have eternal life? Eternal life is not that you're going to die and go to some big spiritual place in the sky called heaven, whether you believe it or not. But the real essence of perpetuity or eternal life is the positive energy that you give to somebody else and they take it and they use it in a positive manner to touch somebody else's life. These are the things that I've learned within the sport of boxing. So that is something that is easily put on the heads of young kids to understand that, you know, I mean, life is not a destination, but within itself, life is actually a journey, and it's to enjoy that journey. And I can hold my hands up and say, like, when I was boxing, I didn't accomplish the things that I first imagined that I was going to accomplish. I didn't accomplish it. Because everyone starts off when you're boxing, you want to be world champion. I didn't even become British champion. I got in the ratings, I was ranked in the top 10, but I was never ever a British champion. So what you have to realize is that I had to take the skill set of education that was put on my head within boxing and use it in other areas, knowing that, well, I didn't reach to where I wanted to get to, but then you realize that the champion is actually the champion of life. You have to champion life. You got to be the undisputed champion of life, not somebody else's life, not me comparing, well, Owen's doing really good for himself, or Louise, oh, she's doing great, or Andy, look at it. No, because I can't be. There's no such thing as a life that's better than yours. No such thing. So I can't compare myself to anybody else but myself, or to be a better person than I was the day before. So once I started to do that, I started to look at that. Then I'm saying these are the things that I could pass on to children, to young kids. I can do that. Reason being is because, what is it like? The lack of confidence. You know what I mean? Or he who has no confidence in self is twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you won even before you started. Is to have that confidence to say, right, so once you have that confidence, or the confidence of that mindset, you've actually won already. And I realized, well, I've actually won. I woke up this morning, I've definitely won. I've got a really nice home. Seriously, I will take you around for a tour afterwards. Right, I've got a really nice home. I have a beautiful missus, beautiful children, and God's blessed me, or the universe has blessed me, or whatever you want to call it. The energies has blessed me enough that I can provide for my family. Those things are paramount to me. So those are the things that I've learned, and it's taken years to learn. So as I've learned them, then you want to, if you know better, you do better. But if you know better, it's not just for you to know, wow, I think I know how this thing works now. No, you want to spread it, because you want as many people to win as possible. Because when everybody else wins, you're winning. That is it. I realize that. So these are the things that I've learned from boxing. Or you can speak to any boxer who's been on teams. I don't know when you box, like you've got team competitions, Louise, but how it used to be for us when we was amateurs, or you go off to tournaments, right? You speak to any boxer, they're going to say it's the truth. And like, there's 8 of you boxing on the team, and you lose, and in your heart, you want everyone else to lose, so because you don't want to be the one that's left out. You know, it's true. Tell the truth, Louise.
Unfortunately, we're not at the point where we get to compete yet, but okay. I can only imagine.
Right, but that's usually what happens when you speak. You speak to them, they say, "Yeah, I lost, so I want everyone else to lose." But deep down is, but deep down inside, you do want the club to win. But you think, well, if I lost, I want everyone else to feel the same pain as me, or I don't want to feel left out.
Yeah.
So we have to reverse that. We reverse it, and how we reverse it, you say, well, I have won, so therefore I want everybody else to have the same empathetic joy that I am feeling right now, or that euphoric feeling that I'm having. I want everybody else to have that. So we learn as we get older. We learn as we have children. We learn, and I think when you have children, I don't know if any of you got kids here. Owen, you got children?
Yeah.
How many children you got, Owen?
2.
Andy?
I've got two grandchildren.
You got 2 grandkids as well?
I'm 52.
So, pardon me?
So now I don't know what to believe with these ages.
Right, exactly. So I'm saying once you have your children, everything that you have around you actually becomes secondary. right? It's like you can make a plate of food, and you got your plate of food in your hand, and like, oh, I don't know, because you guys, are you all from Birmingham, are you?
No.
Where are you from, Louise?
I'm Yorkshire.
Okay, well, you're still up north to me, right? I get lost anywhere past the M25. I don't know where I am. I'm just lost. It's like the sat nav's not working. I'm beating it. I don't know what's going on, right? So I'm saying that's like you got a plate of food and you're eating it. Your missus could ask you for something, and you're like, "Why do you want to eat off of my plate?" But like your kids come and dip their hand in, you don't care because it's your children. So it's a different kind of. Do you know what I mean? It's a different kind of love. It's just like just a minute ago, like I was playing with my 2-year-old, right? I was hugging her and frying her around and blowing raspberries on her cheek, and she's laughing her head off. And then she said, "Oh, Daddy, thank you." I said, "Thank you for what?" She said, "Thank you for the kisses." I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting soft in my old age, but I kind of welled up, right? So what we realize is like the empathy of that eternal life, or that euphoric feeling that you get is that you can pass on. All that is positive energy, and that is something that has to be passed down through children, something that or to our younger generation, and that is something that I've experienced, because within boxing transcends everything, because you're having people now who are physically challenged like yourself, who are in wheelchairs, that are participating in this boxing. You're still getting that feeling, that butterflies in the stomach when you're gonna spar. You got the head guard on, right? Your French shots, right? You'll get that feeling. Boxing transcends race, even though there's only one race, which is the human race. But I'll say it transcends ethnicities. It transcends sexual preference. It transcends so many different areas of societal life, our good points and our bad points. It transcends all of it, and it encapsulates itself in one thing, which becomes a universal thing, which is the love of the art, of the pugilistic art. So kids got a lot to learn from this of boxing, because the things that I have learned in the sport of boxing, rather than being a historian of the sport and stuff, but the things that I have learned, I've been very fortunate that I can take those things that I've learned and then put it into other areas of my life and still come out successful and win.
Thank you. I'm going to watch that back and try and bottle it and then take some of it into school next week. So thank you.
No, listen, I could speak forever, my friend. When I mean forever. So that's why I tried to pass it over to Louise first. But yeah, yeah. If you get the gist.
I get the gist.
My friend, anytime you're ready to just follow me, because the foundation will pay for me to come into your schools and speak to your kids, and I'd love to do.
That would be amazing. And your Faye brothers have actually been to the school as part of a big Yemen Proud project that we had a number of years ago. So we're familiar with them as well. Great guys.
Yeah, they're very good guys.
I've got a question really for Louise, but I'd be really interested in Spencer's view on it. We've seen a massive rise in women's boxing and women's martial arts over the last, say, 10 to 15 years. And we've now got adaptive boxing that's really starting to kick off as well. How do you see that going over the next 10 years? So do we see, again, a massive exponential growth in women's boxing and adaptive boxing? And obviously you fit into both of those categories, Louise.
I think women's boxing is at the best place it's ever been and flying. Super excited for the triple header next week. I mean, you wouldn't have had that 12 months ago, never mind, look, we said it last time, fight camp through COVID had some fantastic female boxers on there, and I think that's really, really helped the fight that we've got to be recognised as boxers. And again, I've said this previously, it shouldn't be, this is an adaptive boxer, this is a female boxer, this is a boxer. We are all boxers, and I think that certainly 2020 has put women's boxing a bit more on the map for that. So I think that it should hopefully be a bit more equilibrium moving forward with that. From an adaptive perspective, I think it's about trying to to put it out there to able-bodied eyes and ears as well. Because for us, it exists. In our community, it exists. We know about it. We want to share that now with you. So it's about finding the opportunities to put it on the right platforms. And again, create that fight, take the fight to it, and hopefully at some point we'll be televised and people will want to see what we're doing. You know, at the moment it's very community based, it's showcase bouts, you can be non-contact, you can be full contact, there's so many different avenues. But ultimately we want a professional arm in this, you know. It needs to be amateur level up to Olympics, and then if you want to turn pro, you should be, you know, respected and seen as a professional athlete, the same as many other para athletes. I think the difficulty we've got is because it's a contact sport, and it's about taste, and it's about how people feel seeing people like me potentially being injured. You know, is there a risk that I fall out of my chair, that the chair tips? Yes, there potentially is. There is a risk for that. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem. But for any wheelchair users that happen to watch this, if you fall out of your wheelchair, whether boxing or not, you're the one that's howling with laughter, and everybody else around you is going, because they don't know what to do. It's just life. It's just us. It's just normal to us. It's every day, and we want that to be seen by everybody else. So yeah, just equilibrium really moving forward.
That's great. And Spencer, can you see a time where women's boxing will regularly top bills, or more often top bills, and then eventually maybe adaptive boxing coming on to bills within the mainstream boxing community? Can you see a time that might happen?
Well, I've seen adaptive boxing on, what was it? Oh, it must be about 7 years ago. I was at a show in York Hall and I saw it. And the skill that was demonstrated, right? Boxing is boxing. It's quite simple. If I hit you more times than you hit me, then I've won the round, right? But there's an artistry to it. So I'm for boxing, and I'm for inclusion, right? And I like the fact that sport within general, any sport, is more inclusive than divisive. So when it comes to female boxing, when I was a kid, and I'm talking like when I was a kid, so if I was to go back, when I was fighting professionally, so if I went back to 1999, there was an American fighter called Kirstie Martin, and she was absolutely incredible, right? She was incredible, but she was head and shoulders above everybody else who she was competing against. So it was like, it wasn't fair, because she was so bloody good and everybody else was beneath her. What's happened now over the years of the evolution, especially with how great the GB squad have done in the Olympics with female boxing, with certain American fighters who've come through. There's an American lady fighter now, female fighter now, called Clarissa Shields, who's a friend of mine as well. She's a freeweight world champion. She's very, very good.
She's a legend. She's a very nice.
She might have a bit of competition from Britain coming up.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
You knew that was
going to happen. You should have told me prior. I'd almost probably told her to come on there. She's a really good friend.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. But I'm close to a lot of the female boxers. Natasha Jonas. So I know quite a few of the female boxers. Shavannah Marshall done excellently last week. So it's that I'm saying, like, the skill levels demonstrated by the female boxers now. Because in 1999, I was very, very critical, and I'm kind of ashamed how critical I used to be of female boxing. But then I can say, well, that was 21 years ago, Spence. So, but I was very critical of it because the skill levels weren't matching up. But I'm a person who likes artistry. I don't care who's showing me it. And I'm seeing artistry being demonstrated right now by female boxers on another level. So I don't look at it, oh, well, it's just female boxing. No, it's boxing, period. It's boxing. It's professional boxing that happens to to be demonstrated by two females, because I don't watch tennis when Serena Williams is playing and say it's female tennis. It's tennis. I just think she's a great tennis player. Period. So I don't see why it'd be any different now, because the skill level is so high in female boxing, for me to look at it like it's anything else than boxing. And I'm a person that has studied boxing going all the way back to 3000 BC when it first started. I've been studying the game from there. So no, if I look at it, I'm saying boxing. And if you demonstrate it, and certain female fighters are demonstrating skill levels far surpass their male male counterparts. I'm telling you this now. So therefore, who am I to sit down and say like, oh, I'm a massive fan of boxing. I don't care who's demonstrating it. And that's the truth. Do you know what I mean? Soon there's going to be a day where we bring in tag boxing, right? Where you get tired, you can go around and you can tag someone and they can jump in and fight the rest. I'm just saying, I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan of the professional noble art, and that pugilistic art that has been demonstrated recently in female boxing. I'm like, what Katie Taylor does is incredible. Natasha Jonas, her fight that she had when she fought for the world title in a draw, her and Harper, that was an incredible fight. No, it was an incredible fight where I saw two people just demonstrating skill, trying to outthink one another, right? So we can't be cynical about it. We're thinking like, oh, okay, two women fighting, oh, here we go. And bags that door. No, it's not. The skill level, and remember, females are actually greater thinkers than males, right? This is factual, right? It's being checked out, right? The attention span of a female is greatly surpasses that of a male. So if you're looking at that alone, and boxing is a thinking man's sport, or thinking person sport, my apologies, right? It's a thinking person sport, right? It's a thinking person sport. Then obviously females are going to demonstrate a higher skill level to the males, because they genetically have more grace and poise than the males do.
That's fantastic. Andy, have I got time for one more or two more?
I don't mind. It's up to you.
Right. I've got a question. I'm going to keep my question about Danny Williams till next time I see you, Spencer. But I've got a question.
No, you can shoot on that one right now. You can shoot on Danny Williams right now. I'm prepared.
That's okay. Well, my question about Danny Williams was linked into, as a fighter, I couldn't quite work out when your decision to give up fighting actually took place and why that was. But we often hear, again, as a real non-boxing fan, of fighters go on too long, or they don't know when to give up, or they're always chasing the next payday. What's your view on when a fighter should throw the towel in finally and have their last fight?
When you can't do it no more. When you can't do it to the level that you used to do it at. Pertaining to someone like Danny Williams, I grew up with Danny Williams, as you all must know. So we grew up together. We're no longer as close. As you get older, you grow apart. But it's very important that you got real people around you. And when people who love you are around you, they will not let you go out and embarrass yourself, no matter how much you desperately need to embarrass yourself for whatever reasons it is. If it's not monetary reasons, it could just be ego, because you just want to be in there and fight. But certain times people have to be saved from themselves. Just like there's an old adage that the fighter is the last person to know, is the last person to know when they haven't got anymore. That's nonsense. The fighter is actually the first person to know, but the last person to admit it when they haven't got it anymore. That's what happens, right? I retired from boxing age 30, and I had loads of fight left in me. But I said, well, I haven't got to where I wanted to get to, and I'm just going to keep it 100% bona fide real. You know, there's going to be other avenues for me to go do. And where it helped me to go into boxing management, boxing promotions, boxing training, and we opened our own gym. We spawned off of other things. And then I was very, very blessed to then enter into the realms of TV, which has spawned into loads of other different things. So it just flies all over the place. You know what I mean? And now, you know, I'm MTK Global Foundation now. So I'm saying, like, it's you're not the last to know, you're the last to admit it, but sometimes you have to be very, very honest with yourself. And sometimes you need real people around you who are honest with you to say, you know what, Spence, this ain't for you no more. And when you're around those people, then you're good. But when you're in those brackets where you're making millions, then sometimes it's very difficult to walk away. And that's why someone like Carl Froch, as much as how braggadocious or arrogant people may think that he is, you have to give that man all the credit in the world, because he walked out of boxing after selling out 80,000 people at Wembley and making millions of pounds. And they said, well, that's enough for me, and goodbye. So when somebody like that, or even someone like Johnny Nelson, who's Britain's second longest reigning world champion, he was world champion for 7.5 years, and he had a hip problem, and they said, well, that's it for me, I'm retiring. I'm retiring on top because I'm retiring as a world champion. And here was a man that lost his first 5 fights. He lost 3 of his first 5 fights. He lost, but he just kept on going, kept on going, kept on going. So he was a man that would learn how to visualize to materialize, which is very important. You can use this one here, Owen. You have to visualize to materialize. So you got to see it first. You got to see it before other people can see it. And you can see it, then if you can see it in your mind, then you can actually ascertain it, you can grab it. And many fighters have done that. And sometimes that could be a problem because they visualized and it became into material substance where they could feel it and they've accomplished great stuff. But then there's times where you can't do it, but you think, well, this time I've got to visualize even harder. I've got to train even harder. The body is a machine. It can only take so much. So it is what it is. But if you have a good team around you, or people, family, friends, and members who can be honest with you. And sometimes the truth hurts. So sometimes there's an old saying that a good business person can tell you to go to hell and you're looking forward to going. So once you got certain times, you got good people around you can just tell you certain things and then that's it. Because I remember my last pro fight that I had, and then I went to go see my parents on the Sunday. I boxed on Saturday. I went to go see them, and my mom said, "Come on, son, just give it up. You're smart. You can go do anything." This is my mom, right? And I just took her advice and said, "All right, to hell with this. I'm going to go do something else."
Brilliant. I got just one quick one. So I'm a bit of a strange boxing fan as well. I quite like boxing on the radio and particularly listening to podcasts. And my favourite one at the moment is Bunce and Costello on Radio 5.
You want to listen to The Fight Is Right. That's the best podcast in the whole wide. The Fight Is Right. It's on iTunes. It's on, right, you got to start listening to that. It's Baba Tunde Ajayi, who's the trainer of like heavyweight world contender Anthony Yard, and yours truly. That is the best podcast out there.
That's next on my list. But anyway, I was going to ask you, because you've worked with him, what's Bunce like, really? And also, then moving on to Louise and yourself, my final question, what's Steve Bunce like? But also, who's your favourite commentator and boxing analyst of all time?
Well, I'm going to have Bunce. I'm going to have to say Buncey because Steve was at my debut showcase bout. So no pressure. I'd got Craig Stephen as the ring announcer, and Steve Bunce was there doing a piece on in the Boxing News. So yeah, but I have to say Buncey for that one because it was my first experience, and I've followed him ever since.
Brilliant. And Spencer, what's he really like, and who's your favourite?
I've known Steve Bunce for many a year. So since I was a young man, I remember Steve Bunce, when I first started out, managing and promoting Steve Bunce was the one that really pushed me forward, because at the time he was at Setanta Sports and he had the Steve Bunce Hour show, and he would always invite me on the show so much that Setanta offered me a job off of the back of it. So I've got a lot of time for Steve Bunce. And historically he's on point. He's nowhere near a historian on my level. I'm not saying it to be boastful. I'm just telling you, I'll destroy Steve Bunce historically. But as a man, he's a good man. When his parents had, I think it was their 50th anniversary, and my treat to Steve Bunce, I got a limo to pick up his parents to take them to see the Jersey Boys and then take them out to eat. That was my treat to Steve Bunce. So I've known Steve Bunce for many a year. and he doesn't really tell the story. I'm just telling people the story anyway because I've got a lot of time for Steve Bunce. He loves the sport. So if someone loves the sport that I'm emphatically in love with, then I love you too. Hence why I'm in love with you guys right now. Not too sure about Andy, but definitely Owen.
Okay, so last question then, and obviously this is aimed for you, Spencer, and also Louise, is thinking about all the showcases and events that you've been involved in, and meeting the different array of boxers and different boxers that you've also interviewed and been involved with. Who really sticks out as, in your mind, as a true great and inspiration?
For me, I think it'd have to be John H. Stracey. I knew very little and know very little about boxing, but I had heard of that name. And I had the privilege of meeting him when I was out at the WBC convention in Cancun last year. And aside from the amazing achievements inside the ring, I think he's still known as the 8th best welterweight of all time. So aside from his achievements in the ring, I think it's what he's gone on to do outside of the ring that really, really sort of resonated with me. So he works for the Ringside Charitable Trust, and that is to support boxers who have either been injured or
My daughter's just running the room. Come, brother.
Oh. Yeah.
Hi.
All right. Yeah, you're right. Go to your brother. Go on. You can. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't, Bubs. Yeah, it's all right. Okay. Say bye.
Bye.
Yeah, go on.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Right, she just busted into like that. She doesn't care.
That's fantastic, Spencer. It really is. Yeah.
Daddy's talking. Daddy's talking. All right. Yeah, go on. So I would say that my there's so many. You know what I mean? There's so many, and like anybody else, I'll be saying I'll be name dropping. So more than anyone, I would say maybe Lloyd Hannigan, former undisputed world welterweight champion, same weight as John H. Stracey. John H. Stracey did something incredible in, was it 1976, when he beat Jose Napoles to become world welterweight champion in Mexico City. Lloyd Hannigan did equal something, maybe a little bit more great, because he beat the pound for pound world champion in Donald Curry in 1986 September, when he was a massive underdog. But the thing is, Lloyd Hannigan used to live just down the road from me. And at the time when he became champion, it was a massive thing. So, and I grew very close to Lloyd Hannigan. He was like, when I was turning pro, he used to train me a lot. So I think to know him, or to know guys who you watched on TV as a kid, like Sugar Ray Leonard, who I now can say is a personal friend, Mike Tyson, personal friend, Lennox Lewis, personal friend. These guys are personal friends now. So it's mad, like as a kid, you used to idolize these people. So there's not one particular person that I could say, well, who really stands out, but Lloyd Hannigan, because he most probably did Britain's greatest ever upset in the history of the sport. So I would say that, Lloyd Hannigan.
Fantastic. Before we finish, because obviously Louise has got an event this weekend, is it, Louise? Have you got an event in? Yeah. I think she's got something to share with you, Spencer. So, okay, over to you, Louise.
I'm going to be working with your cousin this weekend, Spencer, in Clive, Fearon.
Okay.
So Clive was actually my original coach, adaptive coach. Right. So we're collaborating now together, and we're creating a series of videos basically explaining and showing users how they can use gym equipment safely and use home gym equipment safely at home. And so that's going to be something that we're moving forward doing with the community gym down in Derby at Fearon's Gym. So excited to be doing down there this weekend.
Okay, at Fearon's Gym, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So
I commentated on his son's fight, his last fight that he had. He had an absolute barn burner with.
you did because
he had a barn burner with
well, I think
Ben
I recall
Fields.
you saying at the beginning of the fight before it kicked off, you said, "Oh yeah, Alex is my cousin," and then went on to say, "Oh, he's only my cousin if he wins this fight."
That's right.
At that point, you think that he wasn't going to win the fight.
Yeah, it's the truth because they were meant to fight for next month in a rematch.
Yes.
But unfortunately, like the show had to be pulled because of the COVID stipulations and everything else. But we hope now that when he comes back, then he can hopefully get a win. And if he does get a win, then he's my cousin again.
Well, I saw Alex a couple of weeks ago, and he's definitely got the fire. He's definitely got the fight, and that title will be his this time.
Okay, I hope so, because Ben Fields is a very, very tough kid. And you know what? His story is actually amazing because Ben Fields, he used to be a drug addict, which is very open about it as well. So it's not like I'm just gossiping here. He was a drug addict, and how he transformed his life and to become an area champion is a massive thing to him. So, you know what I mean? I congratulate both men.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it was a cracking fight, and I followed a little bit of Ben Field's story because VIP did an interview with him just a little bit before the fight and stuff. And so I'm really, really pleased for him, and it's given him a real nice platform now to build on. So yeah, it was a great fight anyway. But hopefully we do get that rematch.
Yeah, it was an excellent fight. It was absolutely excellent fight. I was very, very grateful to commentate on that fight as well. So yeah.
Two completely different boxes.
Right, guys. I must say it's a pleasure to talk to you both. Owen, again, always a pleasure to have you joining the interviews. Louise, stay safe and take care. Spencer, blessing to speak to you. It's always a pleasure to see you, and I hope we can meet up again soon when we're able to. Stay safe and take care. And it's an honour to meet your daughters, and a pleasure to see how lovely they are, and enthusiastic around you. It's fantastic. So you're such a family guy. As I say, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Stay safe, everybody. Take care. And we have got, obviously, the Super Try and the at-home Winter Wonder Wheels. Yes, I know, in the superhero series. All right, so we are in the process of raising funds for Sophie Warner's Superhero Sports Foundation. Tomorrow, I'm actually, as Louise says, I'm actually scared stiff tomorrow because I'm doing my first marathon tomorrow.
You'll smash it to bits, mate.
Sorry. So I mean, it's the first time I've rode a bike in 30 years. I'm actually doing a marathon at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's ridiculous.
How many miles?
26 miles.
That's minor, man.
Oh, it's all right for you. Thanks.
Say easy work. Say easy work.
Easy work.
Yeah, say easy work. Say Uncle Andy, that's easy work.
Cheers, Spencer. Anyway,
Bye,
take care and stay safe. A pleasure to see you.
Take care. I'm off to say prayers with my children now. Thank you very much.
No worries. You take care, guys.